Alrighty, away we go. Big play post-game show. Browns beat the Cincinnati Bengals 20-18. I'm Nick Pedone. He is Matt Fontana of the Matt Fontana Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Matt, they did it. Andre Szmyt got his revenge. Myles Garrett gets the sack record. Browns beat the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is probably Miles getting the record, right? Like the win was kind of whatever, the Andre Szmyt thing is kind of whatever, but I think we all felt that nervousness. For me, it was around like the third quarter where I was like, okay, was kind of thinking he'd get one by now, and you could just tell the Bengals weren't letting him get close. And I know people are going to watch that clip and think that Burrow went down. He didn't. Like, he was sacked. Miles was the one that got there, so he got it done. I know we'll talk about it a lot more coming up, but it's just one of those crazy seasons. It's number one. It's hard for me to believe, Nick, that like the season is over yet again, because all year you talk yourself into an excitement and talk yourself into what Joe Flacco was going to do. Because yes, he was here in preseason. It doesn't seem that way, but to go through 17 games in 18 weeks and to actually be a season over, it's sad. We'll talk about the Stefanski stuff coming up, but another Browns season in the books, and it wasn't one to write home about.
To see Joe Flacco get that QB sneak for the Bengals, it was such a surreal moment because starting quarterback, not that long ago, just a couple weeks ago, if you really want to frame it that way. And we all know the fallout that happened there and what led us to today. And I thought it was a nice bounce back from Shedeur Sanders. I thought the team really fought. I don't know if they were fighting for each other. I don't know if they were fighting for Kevin Stefanski, but they wanted this win. And you could tell that they definitely wanted that record for Myles, just the way that the defense celebrated at the end. They lifted Myles Garrett up. They lift Andre Szmyt up. Like, it was cool. And we know what this is. And we know that there probably are big changes on the horizon, whether it be tonight, whether it be tomorrow morning. But it's cool for Kevin Stefanski, if this is the end, to go out this way, because I do think Kevin Stefanski has stabilized the Browns. And while maybe this is as far as he could bring the Cleveland Browns, maybe this could be a scenario where it's truly more a passing of a torch and the next guy can come turn this thing around somewhat quickly, versus what it's been kind of in this post 1999 universe, Matt, where the new head coach has to come in and kind of strip this thing down to the studs and try to build it all the way back up their own way. It feels like we do finally have a smidge bit of culture built, even though the winning has not followed.
This one, Nick, feels so different to me than any other coach that the Browns have gotten rid of. And this is what I mean. Like, there were some coaches that you were like, get out. Don't let the door hit you in the ass and get out of here. Like, you didn't leave this place better. We got to clean up a bunch of your mistakes. We had coaches that had some success, right? And then it just all came tumbling down. Kevin Stefanski, for some reason, just feels so different, where I understand why they're probably going to move on from him. And I was, full transparency, somebody who defended him for a long time. But I also sit here today and understand that this is needed and necessary. This feels so different because it's kind of like Woody at the end of Toy Story, when you just wave and you're like, so long, partner. And it's not that I don't think they should move on from Kevin Stefanski. It doesn't mean that I think he did what he needed to keep his job. I feel bad it went this way. I feel bad for Kevin. I feel bad for the fans. I feel bad for the Browns. I feel bad that it went this way. Whose fault was it? That game is over. I don't want to sit here and point this and point that anymore. And, well, Andrew Berry and the Watson trade. Like, I feel so bad that it went this way. It doesn't mean that they don't need to move on, because they do. But, Nick, this just feels different than a lot of other coaches. Because a lot of times when they were firing other coaches, I had no regret. And I was like, yep, we need to move on from Mike Pettin. It's time to get Hugh Jackson out of here. This one just, at least for me, feels different. I know there's a lot of people out there that can't stand Kevin Stefanski and want him fired, and there's people that still defend him a little bit, but this one just feels so different.
It really does. And if you're a Browns fan that's out there and you feel a little bit conflicted, like, you're allowed to. You watch this guy win 2 Coach of the Year awards. You watch this guy win games that other Browns coaches certainly would have lost. But at the same time, you're allowed to want more. You're allowed to expect more. You look around the National Football League, look at what the Seattle Seahawks did last night. They missed the playoffs last year, Matt. They're the number 1 seed in the NFC. Look at the New England Patriots. They were down for a couple years in the post-Brady era, and they're right back in the thick of it in the AFC, and they're going to be a serious contender in the postseason this playoff. So, sometimes you do have to just strive for more than what you have. And it's been 6 years with Kevin. It feels like he's kind of righted our ship a little bit. And maybe he goes to the New York Giants, or maybe he goes to the Tennessee Titans and he does good things. Man, I want to ask you, is this something that you think comes down later this evening, or is this something that comes down tomorrow morning? Especially because now you're talking about making a coaching change after they just won consecutive 2 back-to-back games. So I'm curious to see now how all of this works and the fallout that's to come.
And beat 2 division opponents, by the way. And you I know it's not this easy. I know it's not this simple, but they beat the Packers, they beat the Steelers, and they beat the Bengals this season, right? Of their 5 wins.
And the Dolphins are a better team than what we thought when we beat them.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, again, I don't mean to boil it down like that. They did win more games than they did a year ago, for everybody thought that back-to-back 3 and 14 seasons weren't going to get it done. I would say this, the Browns, just as an organization, love waiting to the last minute. They don't do anything until they absolutely necessarily have to. Tomorrow, there's going to be firings that I don't want to say don't expect, because it's like you have eyes on Tampa now that they're out. Carolina won the division, so Tampa's out. Do you look at Todd Bowles? Do you look at Raheem Morris in Atlanta? Do the Raiders do something with Pete Carroll? I saw Mike Florio posting something about Matt LaFleur.
Matt LaFleur?
In the playoffs. Not tomorrow necessarily, but the playoffs, if Green Bay doesn't advance as far as they should, he's not under contract beyond next year. I don't know, it was weird. But anyway, I think they wait till tomorrow. I think everybody knows what it is. I think it's time to let them get ready, because, normally you have your end of season press conference for the head coach tomorrow. If you end up making the move, then you're going to need the Haslams to speak at some point. Andrew Berry, if he keeps his job, is going to have to speak at some point. So I could see them not making a decision tonight, sending the email tomorrow, making the announcement, we're moving on, we've mutually parted ways, which is everybody's favorite term to use in that, and, have some availability with players, and then maybe have the brass talk later in the week. The only other thing I'm wondering about, and I know it's been shot down by kind of Albert Breer and some other people, is what if they want to trade Stefanski? What if there's, and it's not as easy to do, there's some hoops you got to jump through, but if the Giants are really all in on him and want him to be their head coach, I understand they would sit there and say, we'll just wait for the Browns to fire him because they're going to do it anyway. But if you would give up a pick, and I'm not saying anything high, but you give him a 4th, 5th round pick and you get your guy, under the contract the Browns signed him to, I don't know. So maybe that's still getting worked out. But yeah, best bet, I would imagine it would be tomorrow. There's no reason for them. It's not like they're going to jump on anybody else, to go on somebody.
And it felt like this entire week, independent of, winning back-to-back divisional games to close out your season here, throughout the week, it just felt like a farewell Kevin week. It felt like a goodbye Kevin week. He was reminiscing in his Friday press conference about when he arrived in Cleveland and he thought that David Njoku didn't like him. And you had reporters, telling Kevin that he felt like he wasn't really coaching with a full deck and the offense was overmatched in most of the games that they played this year. And this wasn't really fair. And, this entire week was just very strange. So it would be weird if news hit tomorrow that whatever meeting that they have surmises in anything but Kevin Stefanski no longer being the head coach of the Browns. But I do want to look to next season, Matt, because that's what we're left here to do. And obviously we're going to have an entire offseason to do that. So make sure to subscribe to us on the Big Play Cleveland YouTube channel. Matt's show is going to be out there live Thursday, Friday. And we'll have a ton of Browns coverage and reaction, not only to this game, but throughout the entire rest of the offseason now. When you look at the next head coach, what kind of makeup should the Browns be looking for? I personally would really like somebody with a little bit of a track record, whether it's a retread guy. I know that sometimes turns people off because it's like, well, why are they out there? Why are they available in the first place? Something didn't go right in their last job. I didn't hate some of the Mike McDaniel stuff that got floated out there. I think if you're looking at actually changing up this offense and being able to score some points, looking to get wide receivers involved and get them the football and just modernize this thing to a 2026 offense, I didn't hate that one. I don't hate Mike McCarthy. I know he's out there as kind of a retread option, but what path do you think the Browns should go down as it pertains to the coaching search first?
Well, I'll start with this, Nick. On the Hail Mary, if you will, if somehow the Ravens are stupid enough to get rid of John Harbaugh, then the Browns need to do whatever it takes to make him the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He might want to sit a year out if that happens. He might not even want to ever take another job again. But the Browns and the Haslam's would need to write a check that would get that done. So let's set that aside for a second, because I don't know if that's how good. I kind of feel the same way for Mike Tomlin, too, to be honest with you, but a little more on Harbaugh. Number one is I just feel like in today's NFL, you're better off hiring an offensive-minded head coach. And doing what so many of these other teams have done, you marriage the coach with the quarterback. Now, you'd sit there and say, well, look at Drake May and Mike Vrabel. That's not what they have going there. I understand that. Look at Mike McDonald, Sam Darnold. Not a young quarterback and a defensive-minded head coach. They're the number one seed. Like, I get it, but I strive towards an offensive mind. And I agree with you, but here's a different take on why I want somebody with some experience. Nick, this team's going to be bad again next year. I don't see a way that you're going to be able to instantly flip this around. You know, and I'm sure a lot of conversations this offseason are like, check the box of, okay, you know, Grant Delpit, good. Myles Garrett, good. The vast majority of the good players on this team are going to be on defense. You're going to have what I assume is going to be another really rough year on offense. I don't want some rookie head coach trying to figure things out on his scheme and his players, knowing he's going to have one hand tied behind his back. I want somebody that's done it before to come in here to basically have the stones to deal with the negativity, to deal with some down times, and deal with the offense maybe being a little stagnant, but that not deterring them. You know, if that makes sense. Like, I could see a new coach coming in here and getting overwhelmed with the prospect of trying to get Shedeur Sanders to play well, because we don't know what's going to go on there. The idea that maybe Deshaun Watson will have to play again, because that's basically how bad I think Shedeur has played here at the end of the season. So I do need somebody in here that can handle it, because I think next year is also going to be another, you know, rebuild, draft picks, and try to get your quarterback in 27, because I think that's unfortunately where the Cleveland Browns are going to be at.
We got some comments coming in here on the YouTube machine. This one from Karen Goodwin saying this team could have had a much better season this year. It's hard to disagree with that, especially when you see how the season ended with back-to-back victories. It really would have felt pretty good to win that game. Mary Kate Cabot putting out there on X right now, feels awkward to part ways with Browns. Kevin Stefanski, with all the euphoria going on in this locker room, feels good to win. Winning cures everything, and they didn't win enough this season, which is ultimately why I believe changes are on the horizon for this Browns team. It's too talented. They spent all offseason telling everybody, you know, the owner himself came out and said it. 3-14 won't cut it, and we'll know what better looks like. I don't think better is 5 and whatever that, and 5-12. Like, that's not a significant improvement when you look at how talented this defense is. When you look at this offense, which is it the offensive line bad? Yes. Are the receivers bad? Yes. But there are players. This isn't 1-31. Like Jerry Jeudy, even for all of his qualms, and there are plenty of qualms with him, he's a better skill player than anybody that we had throughout 1-31. David Njoku, same thing. Harold Fannin Jr., same thing. So for this team to only have had 5 wins, you're still on that under in Vegas on the preseason total. And it ultimately does feel like you left a good bit of meat on the bone, particularly right in the middle of that season where you probably should have found a way to win a couple more games.
Well, I got to give credit to you because I was out getting coffee for my wife and I this morning, so I was tuning to you and Jake Volnick on 92.3 The Fan early this morning, and you brought up a great point. Dude, how many games on, like, special... probably 3 more wins? Maybe at least 2 if your special teams was competent or if you didn't have stupid penalties or little weird things happen here. You're right. Does 6 or 7 wins make you feel that much better than 5 or 4? Not really, but, I mean, there were wins to be had there. there were wins to be had there, and you just didn't want to, for someone got no reason, want to fire Bubba Ventrone or fix the special teams. But, here we are.
All right, Matt. So the question that everybody wants to ask going into next season, the Shedeur Sanders thing. And we're getting comments in here. This one from Bale347 on the YouTube machine saying, bro is playing with the practice squad. Knock it off. It's true. Like Cam Robinson, KT Leviston, not NFL offensive tackles by any stretch. Gage Larvidan, Isaiah Bond, these are undrafted free agent wide receivers. Sal Cannella, man, I was sick on behalf of all my Italian brethren out there that he dropped that touchdown pass. It would have been so nice to have that one. We know what this was, and Shedeur wasn't playing with a full deck on offense this season. However, even though I'm a fan of Shedeur Sanders, I'm encouraged by some of the good that I've seen. I'm encouraged that there was another game-winning drive today, and he was able to put past a lot of the bad that came in that game, and he was able to put rubber to the road when it mattered most and win the Browns that football game. I want to see him be an option in 2026, but Matt, we can't be naive to the situation. Even though I'm a fan of Shedeur Sanders, I understand that they might have to do what a new head coach wants to, or do what a new front office executive wants to, if that means upgrading their quarterback position. They just don't have that much invested in Shedeur Sanders, where they probably don't feel like they have to be married to this dude for next year, even though I'm beyond encouraged by what I saw in a pretty small sample size.
I would love nothing more than to be a fly on the wall when they sit down with all these head coaching candidates and ask them the question, what did you think of Shedeur Sanders this season? Because that question, you're going to get if you ask 6 different head coaching candidates, you might get 6 different answers.
You could do it Family Feud style. You could poll 100 people and see what they come back with.
Yeah, Picard's flute if you watch Family Guy. But that all aside, like I think here's the thing with Shedeur, he's going to be here. Like I don't see any way that it behooves the Cleveland Browns to move away from Shedeur Sanders. Now I'd say the same thing about Dylan Gabriel. People are going to like this answer. We'll see what happens in August. He's going to be here. You're not drafting a quarterback. Okay, the Browns, I haven't even looked at the updated one, Nick. I don't know if you have any. What are we going to pick? 7, 6, something like that? You're not going to get Dante Moore. You're not going to get Fernando Mendoza. I'm sick of drafting guys outside of the first round. I don't want Ty Simpson. So that's it. So go receiver, go lineman, and just focus that on your draft. You want to go try to chase down Mac Jones in free agency or try to make that trade? Sure, fine. And then Deshaun Watson's going to be here too. So I look at it from this standpoint. I think Shedeur, I'll say this, I'll put on record. I want Shedeur to start the season. I do. Now, did he end the way I wanted him to? No. Did he start to revert to some bad habits? Yes. Was he playing with a glorified practice squad? Yes. Give him the offseason. You want to name him the starter. You don't need to do anything. You're right. Wait for the new coach to come in. Let Watson be out there. Let Shedeur start the first couple of games. And if you start seeing the same mistakes, the same bad habits, you do have Deshaun Watson here. You can go back to him, I guess. But I don't think there's much to worry about. Like, Shedeur's going to be here, and it would shock me, frankly, if they didn't at least start the season or start the offseason with him being the number 1 quarterback. Because the other thing to worry about, the other thing to watch with this too, real quick, Dylan Gabriel, his biggest fan is no longer going to be employed by the Cleveland Browns by this time tomorrow. And if there's no one else in that front office, if there's nobody else on that team that really saw Dylan Gabriel the way that Kevin Stefanski did, then Dylan Gabriel's not going to be here. Shedeur, I think he's probably got the most powerful people in the Browns organization on his side, and the fact that there were some good moments, more bad than good. Let's not get this twisted. There was more bad, and I'll argue with people all day. There was more bad than good with Shedeur Sanders this season, 100%. But he's a rookie. He didn't have a good complement of people out there. Try to emphasize the good, but at this point, he's probably going to be your number 1 solution for next season, and then with Watson or whoever else you might go get.
And I do agree with these comments that are rolling in. Shedeur worked with what he had, and that's really all you can ask for any player that's out there. Just watch the eye test for me, Matt, is what I continue to fall back on with this entire Shedeur Sanders conversation, because you look at the touchdown to interception ratio. Of course, Dylan Gabriel looks like the better quarterback when you just pull up their Pro Football Reference pages next to each other. But just watching some of the intangible things that Shedeur Sanders did, the accuracy difference is quite different. The fact that Dylan Gabriel was not just inaccurate, he's widely inaccurate. I just don't know that you could really go into next year with that as an option. I at least think Shedeur Sanders has played his way into being an option for whatever the new head coach wants to do. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like sometimes in sports, especially when you're in this retool, rebuild, reshape, whatever we want to call it, window that the Browns are in, there's nothing wrong with having a bunch of different options and you just try some stuff out. Like that's what this entire season was. And I think you finally started to find something with 2 games to go. You won your last 2 games of the season that he started, looked good against the Titans as well. Obviously beat the Raiders in his, first start of his career. So like you have things that you could come out of this season with. The biggest thing, though, is you got to find a way to fix the rest of this offense in short order because this defense is ready to go. Like this defense is ready to contend now. All of those guys are under contract. We can't say enough positive things about Myles Garrett on the day that he breaks that single season sack record. And just please fix this offense. And this doesn't have to be as painful as other Browns rebuilds have been because you have a defense that's this close.
And I'm going to twist this in a positive way, Nick, about Shedeur Sanders with the next head coach. Like, here's my example. Tennessee is going to look for a head coach and go, what can you do with Cam Ward, right? He was the number 1 overall pick. We are still invested in him as our future. He has shown us enough over this time that we think he can be it. Like, what is your plan for Cam Ward? Whoever the Giants hire, when they sit down with Kevin Stefanski, they're going to go, what are you going to do to help Jackson Dart here? Or what do you see to us furthering Jackson Dart? Browns aren't going to do that. They're going to sit down with all these prospective head coaches, if they're an offensive-minded head coach, which I hope they are, and to sit there and say, what did you think of our quarterbacks, but also, like, we're not married to any of them, right? And I think that actually is going to help them if there's competition. Like, let's just say Mike McCarthy. Let's say Mike McCarthy's sitting there, and he's looking at Tennessee, and he's looking at the Cleveland Browns, right? And he's sitting there, and he goes, I like Cam Ward, but up there in Cleveland, I'm going to have my choice of a quarterback probably, after the 2026 year. And just,
right.
Again, a lot can play out. I'm not all in on Mike McCarthy quite yet, but we'll see how it plays out. But, like, I think there's a positive to be that. Like, Shedeur can be a part of the answer for right now, but the Browns don't have to be married to him, and I frankly don't think they are.
Alrighty, well, we're going to see what goes on. As I said before, subscribe to the Big Play Cleveland YouTube channel. Follow all of the shows out there on X as well. We are officially on head coaching watch. That's where we're at right now. Kevin Stefanski is going to address the media here literally momentarily. We're going to give, the big usual non-answers about the game today, and I'm sure he'll be asked about his future. There's supposedly a meeting set for when they get back to Cleveland, Stefanski, ownership at some point this evening. If not this evening, then first thing tomorrow morning, and we will have an update on Kevin Stefanski one way or another. So, Matt, any final parting thoughts as we kind of wrap the post-game stream here on a Sunday afternoon and let people get back to watching a lot of good NFL football going on, even more than just the Browns winning games?
Yeah, where are the Cavs at, too, by the way? I was looking down. I was trying to check. With our friends at FanDuel, I was going to check out a parlay one. But no, I think here's the biggest thing for me, Nick. It's sad how this season goes. I'm sad that we're kind of having to do this all over again. I'm super happy for Myles. I was nervous. I was hoping he was going to get it. He got it. So that was honestly probably the bright spot of the season. In a season of a lot of heartache and questions and injuries and all that, Myles Garrett becoming the all-time single-season sack record holder truly was a memory I'll probably never forget. So I thank him for that. I'm so happy for Myles. And I got a lot of messages, and they were all the same thing. Everybody was just happy for Myles. Everybody was super happy that he got it done. So congratulations to him. I'm with you. Here we go again. We all know coaching searches. We know how they go. So it's going to be a long couple of weeks here coming up, and we'll see the Browns kind of shake out from there.
The Myles thing was so cool, and you're right. Everybody was happy for Myles. Like, my fiance is a fringe football fan. She knows what's going on because I live here, so like the TV's on, and she was sitting, Matt, on the edge of the couch, like in the fourth quarter, trying to see if he could get one more. She's yelling about holds that weren't there. Yeah. Myles wasn't even on the field that time that they took him off, and she's like, they're holding him. I'm like, that's 57. That's not even 95. But I love that you're into this. So like everybody in Cleveland wanted to see Myles get that record for what he's given us. It's been a lot of cool. a lot of cool moments with him throughout his entire career. And it's nice that he does that this season, where he said he wanted to take it up another level, especially after that contract extension, especially after the trade request and all of that got settled. Officially water under the bridge now, as we know we have one of the greatest of all time, literally in the history books right now, in one Myles Garrett. All right, he is Matt Fontana. I'm Nick Pedone. Subscribe to the Big Play Cleveland YouTube channel, and we will have a lot of content for our Cleveland Browns on the way all offseason long. You don't want to miss it. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon, Cleveland.